Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. We're in the midst of the global coronavirus pandemic, and putting this out there for you guys who are stuck at home and need something to do. So Jeff and I got together and we did another movie podcast. This time around, it's two movies that are somewhat relevant to the current state of things. We did Contagion and 12 Monkeys. Jeff and I are having a lot of fun doing these, so there'll be a lot more coming down the line. So enjoy.
Right, yeah, we kind of had something different planned, and through text we were like, maybe this would be something a little bit more interesting. Contagion is a movie I saw in 2011 when it came out. I was kind of actively avoiding this movie, even though it was directed by Steven Soderbergh, someone who I really like. But this kind of movie is the kind that really gets under my skin. And viruses, people getting sick, stuff like that. And, man, I really love the tone and the point of view of this movie. But yeah, I mean, the whole tone of the movie is very matter of fact. There's not a lot of hysteria, and I feel like it's meticulously researched and feels really authentic and really possible. And that was one of the most disturbing elements to the movie, is like, this could happen. In some ways, it kind of is. I mean, obviously, millions and millions of people aren't dying, but this is happening. There are doctors out there in the field researching, trying to figure out how this started, how it's spreading, where it's going. And I really like that it's not a hysteria movie. It's just very matter of fact.
Yeah, it has the vibe of almost a police procedural, like when they have these like murder movies where, like for example, Zodiac had this like procedural vibe to it. And this kind of reminded me of that, except it's about infectious disease.
Right, yeah, and like it's not scored like a horror movie. You have Cliff Martinez, one of the best, I think. And it really, like you said, the score kind of propels the movie, and it has this like procedural sort of vibe to it, and not this like downer, grim, everyone's dying kind of feel to it. And you see this, like, the events go out like from the point of view mostly of like doctors and people working in the field, and like you don't get a lot of like, I mean, it's there with the Matt Damon character, and you don't get a lot of like hysteria, panic, empty stores, things like that. You get shots of that, but it's mostly all about how something like this is combated. And I mean, I really just loved it. This is my second time seeing it. It was like seeing it with fresh eyes. I hadn't seen it in so long, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think it's one of Soderbergh's best films.
Yeah, so let's just real quick. The movie came out in 2011, directed by Steven Soderbergh, who you will know from Sex, Lies, and Videotape. 2018's Unsane. Have you seen that?
I did.
Yeah, it's pretty good, I thought.
It was pretty good. Again, Soderbergh's kind of a hard director to pin down. Like, he'll make, something like Sex, Lies, and Videotape, and win an Oscar for Traffic, and then he'll go and shoot a movie on his iPhone.
Yeah, and then he did the Oceans trilogy.
Yeah, that was on TV yesterday, and those are efficient movies. I don't really love those movies. They really don't do it for me, but they're slick, they're well made, they're well acted, and they're fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed those. I always feel like whenever I fly like that, one of those is on the inline like movie network, at some point.
Yeah.
But the writer, the screenplay writer was Scott Burns. Burns and Soderbergh had worked together before on The Informant. That's what it was.
I really like that movie too.
Yeah, that's actually true. that bit of information I put out there. That's not disinformation or anything like that.
Okay.
And it's an ensemble cast, similar to the Ocean's trilogy, which is an ensemble cast. This movie has Matt Damon, Gwyneth Paltrow, Lawrence Fishburne, Jude Law, Kate Winslet, and last but not least, Marion Cotillard, the French actress. And
yeah,
she
seemed to be in like every movie from like 2009 to 2013.
Yeah, she was in Inception, another film I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I love that movie. But yeah, this movie doesn't focus on any. I feel like everyone gets an equal amount of screen time, and you open it up, the movie. It's day 2, and you just see Gwyneth Paltrow, red-nosed, hand in a communal peanut jar at a bar. And right off the bat, like, I had to pause the movie and, like, I think I'm going to need to have a drink while I watch this. And there's one scene, man, you show in the first 2 minutes, you see just how uncontainable something like this is. She's sick. She's got her hands on the nuts that someone else is going to eat. Hands her credit card to the bartender. Bartender takes it, touches it. Like, immediately I was like, holy shit, it's really just that easy.
Yeah, basically.
And right off the bat, like, the movie is just like, up and running. And, within like 15 minutes, you're seeing like an autopsy on that character that the movie opens on. And I had to check. I was like, this is PG-13?
Really? It was a PG-13 movie?
Yeah, I was shocked. I mean, it's PG-13. You see Gwyneth Paltrow get her head sawed open.
Wow.
And then there's like a shot of a dead kid in his bed. And I thought that was like, would be an immediate R. I mean, it's a really disturbing shot.
Huh.
But nope, PG-13.
Wow. I think today that movie probably would have got an R rating, though.
Yeah, I feel like it would have. Or, I mean, I guess there's not a lot of like language, or it's not a particularly violent or gory movie. So, but it is disturbing. And, but yeah, whatever. It's not that important. It was sort of a surprise.
Also, just the coloring, like the muted sort of washed out color of the film is it adds to this dreariness to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like Soderbergh does this a lot, like different aspects. Like he'll shoot in different colors. I think you notice like in Traffic, when they shoot in like Mexico, it's sort of got a dustier look to it, and then when they're shooting like the DC stuff, it's got a kind of cold, slick look to it. There's a little bit of that going on. I noticed like the stuff had parts of the movie had like a gold sort of palette, while the stuff involving like Matt Damon and that, again, it was like a colder, drearier feel.
Yeah, the thing with Matt Damon, all right, the Matt Damon character and Gwyneth Paltrow are they're married, and she stepped outside of the relationship when she was on her business trip, it seems like. And
right, yeah, in Chicago.
So she further spread this this disease through probably bodily fluids, I imagine.
Yeah, I think it kind of like the coronavirus is like a surface disease. It lives on surfaces. It moves really quick, but it's not airborne. But even so, it's not airborne. It just shows how something like this, again, just spreads like wildfire, and people are scrambling to contain it.
What do you think of Gwyneth Paltrow as an actress?
Sometimes it is hard to separate the person, because I know like she's got that Goop blog or whatever it's called.
Fuck that, yeah.
And it's just the most obnoxious, privileged white girl shit I've ever seen in my life. So, I mean, that shit's goofy. But all that aside, she's fine. I don't think she's exceptionally great in anything, but I don't think she's terrible in anything either. She's just kind of there.
Yeah, and, I never was a fan of hers. I always felt like she has only like one or two facial expressions that she uses, and there's
Yeah.
like she's kind of the same in every film. Like there's no depth to any of her abilities, I feel like.
Yeah, I basically agree with that. I gotta say though, she's pretty good in this. There's that shot. Another thing, like someone like she's struggling to get up and make coffee, and she's trying to go about her routine, but she's dying and she doesn't know it. That scene was kind of terrifying. Where it's like, I think it's day 3, and it's just a shot like looking up at her face, and she's just confused.
Yeah.
And then she collapses. It was a really disturbing scene.
Well, before we started recording, I told you about when I almost died from an infection, and that actually felt very realistic. I was telling you the story about how I got cellulitis on my face, and the day after, I guess, when I contracted it, it hit me really hard, and I came home from work, made an appointment to go to the doctor right away, and I was like laying in bed, sweating and feverish, and the concept of making dinner was like, I'm like, oh, I should probably eat something, but I couldn't even put 2 and 2 together to do that. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And I think that's why that scene is so disturbing. It's very relatable.
Yeah.
You can picture yourself there doing it. And, so after that, you see, there's another great shot in the movie where Matt Damon goes to pick his son up, and his son touches the door, and the camera just lingers on the door just for like an extra couple seconds. It's a really effective shot. And again, there's a scene with a guy who drove Gwyneth Paltrow home from the airport, and he's on the bus, and it just shows him coughing and touching everything. This movie really makes you notice those little things and how much you actually touch throughout your day, and how many people you could potentially infect.
Yeah, no, it's scary, And for those of you out there who are listening to this as this episode came out, we're in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic here in the United States. And
yes,
for those of you who listen to this episode in the future, if we're all still alive, I hope everything turns out okay. But,
I second that.
Yeah. Speaking of that, what are your experiences? I mean, we selected this film to talk about because it is kind of like one of these, analogous situations to what's going on right now in some ways. So are you experiencing any of this stuff like right now in LA?
Yeah, to some degree. And I think we talked about this a little bit. Like, you're starting to look out your window and see things that you see in a horror movie, an apocalyptic horror movie, but you're seeing it out your window, or you're seeing it in your neighborhood, or, going to like a Trader Joe's and it's, empty. Not it's filled with people, but shelves are empty. You see that huge freezer that's always stocked. It's depleted. People are a little bit ruder to each other, dirty looks, things like that. People in masks. It's surreal. It's very surreal. Bars, restaurants that are usually busy, they're either closed or are empty. Everyone working from home. Where I work, I can't work from home. A lot of people can. So, the office is empty. It's very surreal. Less traffic, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, man. It's like here, I don't see that much of a difference like out here in the neighborhood. There's like the local like convenience stores and supermarkets have everything. Everything's cool. It's like there's the mad dash for toilet paper.
Very strange.
Doesn't seem to have affected anyone out here. In the city, like I didn't go into the office on Friday, but on Thursday I noticed.
Me neither.
Broadway was dark. They canceled plays. That's kind of like when things hit me about how I started noticing that everything was being canceled, like school, all that kind of shit. And
yeah.
And that's when I decided that I should probably just go home after work on Thursday night. so I just went home and stayed. A lot of people weren't going in on Friday. Departments, some sections of my office hadn't actually. They'd already decided to work at home on Thursday, so they weren't there on Thursday, at all. So I haven't gone into any kind of Whole Foods or Trader Joe's for a while. So, but the reports I get from people is that these kind of like, it's more like the middle class, like white people are the ones who are freaking out the most about this stuff. Like they're the ones who are donning masks and buying up all the toilet paper and that kind of stuff. And
you would totally agree with that. From my point of view, that's what it seems like. And I mean, people stocking up on bottled water. It's like, well, you have a sink, right?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, totally.
And now, like, sales of bidets are going through the roof.
Hey, I mean, that's actually an environmentally sound decision to make, I think.
Yeah, I remember my first trip to Japan, and like I was like, wow, these things are all over the place. These are great. I
decided that when I move into my new place, I'm going to get a bidet. I think that's the takeaway from a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, we have them at the office. People love it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool,
yeah.
Man.
Yeah, it is. You got to work with younger people, man. They got the finger on the pulse of what the fuck is going on.
Really? That's pretty progressive, man. You guys out there in California are way ahead on this kind of stuff. That's cool.
Yeah, you know how we do it out here. Gender neutral bathrooms and everything.
Yeah, I mean they have that out here too. That's
sure.
Not just out in LA, man. But yeah, definitely.
Right. But yeah, there is a sense of panic, and things seem very strange. And this whole idea of social distancing and washing your hands. I mean, that's kind of been my reality for a while now.
Yeah.
I've always been very worried about getting sick and a bit of a germaphobe and a bit of a loner too. So I don't really go out a lot. So it's kind of business as usual for me, but a little bit more extreme, a little bit more cautious to go outside. Like I think we talked earlier, society collapsing or people's behavior in a time like this is really frightening too. The movie kind of touches on that a little bit. And one of the more interesting characters in the movie to me was Jude Law's character.
Yeah, the blogger. Yep.
And the movie has that great line that blogging is just graffiti with punctuation.
Yeah, totally.
I loved that because it works for everything. Like, no matter what you blog about, no matter what side you're on, 90% of it is bullshit. And I think he's supposed to be like an Alex Jones type. And
yeah, I could see that. I wouldn't immediately have drawn that conclusion, but yeah, I could see him being like an Alex Jones, like, fringe, guy.
And he's also selling bullshit.
Yeah.
Alex Jones sells these like brain supplements that keep you from becoming a gay frog or whatever fucking weird shit that guy's into. This guy's has stock in this company that claims to be the cure for the virus. And it turns out to be bullshit. And I couldn't help but think of like an Alex Jones type. And then in some ways I'm glad he's not able to be on social media and spread his bullshit in a time like this.
Yeah, I can imagine, man. And that actually demonstrates that tendency you were talking about, where people to become like unruly. Like where there's scenes in the film where there's that thing. It's forsythia,
forsythia. Yes, that was
the
it.
Holistic, alleged holistic cure. And there was like people acting like savages trying to get it, breaking into houses, like all this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and another like really crushing scene where the pregnant girl is kind of friends with Jude Law's character in line, waiting to get it, and then it erupts into chaos, and then a couple scenes later, she's begging for forsythia, and then she's dead.
Yeah.
And you don't really see a lot of remorse coming from Whitty. That was Jude Law's character's name. Not a lot of remorse from him. And he gets rich and profits off of this disaster.
I think that a lot of even putting that back to our current scenario here is once again similar to like a zombie apocalypse. It's like the people. I'm more nervous about people than I am about the actual diseases, I think. In this case,
yeah.
I mean, if we had an Ebola pandemic, that would be a completely different situation. But
sure,
I mean, what we were talking about earlier about this as being like a flu, and people recovering, and it's not the end of the world. All people need is that green light to descend into madness and savagery, and that's like a tendency that I see that's very alarming to me. People just losing their shit over not really a very extreme situation. I mean, it's extreme because we don't have to deal with a lot of stuff like this. But it's in the bigger picture, it's not a very extreme situation that we have.
Well, for now, it's treatable. You can you can die from it, but it is treatable. You can come back from it. You can recover. But you're still seeing like this is the end of the world on social media, which I said earlier. I'm trying to stay off of because it's just a 24-hour anxiety attack, and it's not good for anyone. And whereas in the movie, I think, do you remember what the mortality rate in the movie was? Something like 20%.
Yeah, it was it was like a very high like mortality rate in the film. Like it was killing people. Like basically, if you got it, it seemed like you died, except for the ones that were immune. Because like we were talking earlier about how the kind of progression of these infectious diseases is that a certain percentage of people die, a certain percentage of people contract it and recover, and a certain percentage are immune. And that goes all the way back to high school genetics. You know what I mean? When you study about like evolution and how things evolve, that's kind of like step one in the process of that. And but basically in Contagion in the film, Matt Damon, his character, and I believe his son or his daughter or someone, they were immune to it.
He was definitely immune to it. There was some question about if she was immune to it. There's that scene where he's talking to Kate Winslet's character, and he says, well, she's got my genes. She must be immune. And she goes, well, she only has half. Right. So, and his story becomes about protecting his daughter and keeping her safe. And so I'm not really sure she was ever immune. I don't think that's ever made clear.
Yeah. But Damon was, though. And that's the thing. It's like, he's completely immune. Gwyneth Paltrow dies, and I'm not sure. Was there anyone who contracted it and didn't die and recovered that they showed in the film?
I don't think. No, I don't think so. That would have been kind of interesting, but
Yeah, because I think that's closer to reality. Is that there would be some people that would recover from it,
Right. I mean, yeah, it's a very realistic movie and is very meticulously researched, but it is, still a movie. I don't know if you've heard, but this is like in the top 10 of iTunes downloaded movies. It's one of the most torrented movies right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone is watching this, and I think it's freaking people out even more. And people got to remember, like, as fact-based as it is a movie for entertainment purposes.
And also, just the disease is a completely different disease. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, there are some similarities, again, a lot of misinformation about where this thing came from. And they see this, and they think, oh, this is how it happened. There's a bat and a pig, and someone slaughtered the pig, and the blood from the pig got in the chef's hands and Gwyneth Paltrow's hand. That's not exactly how the coronavirus happened. I'm not even really 100% sure how it happened or where it exactly, but it did originate in Wuhan, right?
Yeah, and it had to do with the wet markets, which is where a lot of viruses jump species, apparently.
Right.
And that's a huge problem, a huge public health problem that needs to be addressed, because this is not the first time that a virus like this has jumped species, and it's all been traced back to these wet markets that are in China and other parts of Asia.
Right, and that's another aspect this movie touches on is the politics behind it, and trying to fudge numbers and deflect responsibility, saying, no, this didn't come from us. This isn't our fault. The movie touches on it. And again, I think it scares people because you're seeing that in real life right now.
Yeah, the big time, especially in the political climate we have right now.
Right. I mean, I can't believe I'm seeing political arguments about this on social media. Like, this is Trump's fault. This is a Democratic panic. This is a hoax. This is fucking insane, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it's maddening in so many ways. I think our president's response to it was horrible. But people saying all these deaths are on his hands, it's a little extreme. I mean,
yeah, I mean, ever since that dude took office, there's been like this extreme on like a left and a right extremity that are both completely unreasonable. You know what I mean? And
absolutely,
logic is being lost within those two extremities. Like, there's just completely illogical stuff that's going on the far left and far right. And
right,
to be like, oh, this guy, it's all these blood is on his hands. You know, as much as I hate Donald Trump, I don't think that the blood of everyone that's perished as a result of the coronavirus is fully on his hands. You know what I mean? You know,
yeah, of course not.
You know, there's just a lot of histrionics, and you know, and it's not really doing anyone any good. It's just making people more angry, creating more chaos and paranoia. And I think that at a time like this, there really needs to be more clear thought, and people need to be more composed in how they conduct themselves.
And I feel like people are doing the polar opposite.
Yeah, most people are losing their fucking minds, you know, and that's not good.
Yeah, I was very scared when this all started. I've, basically been home for the last 4 or 5 days. I've calmed down a lot. Things aren't going to complete shit out there. So that's the best thing to do is, stay calm, obviously.
Yeah. Like it would be cool if there were zombies. It would be cool if people were turning into zombies. Like, that would be way cooler if like everyone that died turned into a zombie, you know?
That would be such a better apocalypse to die in.
Yeah.
Because, than something like this. I mean, also, too, this movie, like, you think about it, takes place over 135 days and 26 million people die.
We're talking about the movie Contagion. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so obviously it moves a lot quicker. I think by day 4 in the movie, it's just everywhere and people are freaking out. And by day 14, another scene that was highly disturbing, Kate Winslet's character, the doctor, who's sent out in the field to try to figure out what's going on, where it originated. And she's like the very practical character you think you're going to follow throughout the film. You know, she's the one saying, don't touch your face. People touch their face 2,000 to 3,000 times a day. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that sounds true, but it's also, I was like, wow, holy shit, that's fucking crazy. But you're with this character, and she has it together, and you think she's going to be the one. But she still wakes up on the 14th day of the outbreak with that cough, and you kind of feel that terror. Like, it's very believable.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think how I would react if I wake up in the middle of the night tomorrow coughing, like, oh, shit, you know?
Yeah, well, chances are you're not going to die, though. That's the thing. In Contagion,
right, and in this, yeah.
You're that's almost like your death warrant if you have that cough.
Right, exactly. But you're with her, like, and her down, just saying, oh, no, while she's, like, checking her temperature. There's a very real moment. Like, you could see, you put yourself in her shoes in that scene, and it's devastating. And then, again, a few scenes later, she's gone. There's that really terrifying scene in a hospital. You just see all these people, like, in this makeshift hospital, just dying. And you put yourself there. Like, you think this could happen. This could be me.
The one thing that I thought was odd about how they disposed of the bodies was they didn't incinerate the bodies.
Right, yeah. You know, how did they get rid of them again?
They just bury him in a mass grave, which is like, that's kind of fucking crazy too, I think, too. You know what I mean? It's like, typically,
I feel that's
contaminated bio waste like that gets burned.
right. There was a few things. I thought Marion Cotillard's character, that whole like the kidnapping part of it felt a little out of place in this movie.
Yeah, that's the one flaw. Like, I don't think that was some. There's already enough drama in the film. You know, I don't think you needed that side story really to go anywhere.
Right. Yeah, that was like the one aspect of it that rang false, and like, this all could have been cut or, avoided altogether. It didn't totally work for me, and I find myself kind of forgetting about that angle of the movie, and like they'd go back to it and be like, oh yeah, this.
Yeah. There were too many. That's the one criticism I had, is there might have been too many storylines in the film.
Yeah, and with I think it's under 2 hours. Like, it handles all those stories fairly well. The movie moves at such a great pace, and it doesn't linger on any one thing too long. It just moves really, really quickly. And probably could have moved a little bit quicker without that, but whatever.
Yeah.
And I found the whole lottery aspect of it pretty interesting. Like, what would it look like if a vaccine was made for something, like coronavirus? What's it going to look like when a vaccine comes out for that next year? How is that going to be handled? How is it going to be distributed? And in this movie, it's a lottery. If you're born on March 30th, come now, and then so on and so forth. Every day they pick a day of the month of the year. I thought that was interesting, and I wondered how that would work in reality. How we're going to get this vaccine to people with the coronavirus.
Yeah, that's a good question. And the reality of it is it would be done by some pharmaceutical company who would love the opportunity to make a ton of money producing this vaccine on an incredibly large quantity and be able to license it to other companies overseas. You know what I mean? And it's like, there would be the looming, specter of capitalism driving all this stuff, just like it is now on some level. You know what I mean? Like once there's a vaccine developed, someone will have the license for it, and it'll be, handled through insurance companies and all this other bullshit. And once again, poor people are the ones who are going to suffer. That's kind of how
they're the ones who are going to get fucked.
That's how it works in this country. If you're poor, you're fucked.
Yeah. Are you a flu shot guy? Do you get the flu shot?
I don't.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I did once because I felt like they kind of forced it on me.
Yeah, I don't take. I generally don't. I believe in keeping my immune system really strong, and if there was like. Obviously, I'm reasonable though. Like when I had the staph infections and whatnot, I took antibiotics, But
right.
In general, I just I'm not one of those Purell guys,
No, I am.
Yeah, I don't. I have. I mean, just my day-to-day life. I use a lot of like tea tree oil type cleansers, and there's like natural antiviral or antibacterial stuff that I use, not antiviral, but antibacterial products. There's all sorts of stuff that I employ, like white vinegar, like things like that. And
McDonald's pizza.
Yeah.
Stuff like healthy stuff put in your body. Yeah.
But I mean, like white vinegar, I use like that to disinfect some stuff. Like I have, from training, like you got like your shin guards and gloves and things like that. Wraps, and I use white vinegar solution to clean that stuff because that's antibacterial. And then when I come home, I shower with like soap that's antibacterial soap. So there's it's already like part of like, and even at the gym, as soon as I'm done training, I like wipe down all my shit. I use fucking cleanser that they have there, and there's products out there that can help you. You know what I mean, to keep things at bay on a day-to-day basis. You know what I mean? But
sure.
With all that though, I still believe that your immune system has to be activated somehow. Like you can't you can't just kill everything that's attacking you. You have to like keep your immune system healthy, and by keeping it healthy,
Right.
it has to develop ways of dealing with this stuff, and that's kind of like how. That's why I don't go for flu shots. You know, I mean, in this case, I probably will get a flu shot when it gets developed because it's been I think it would be irresponsible of me this time around to not get a flu shot. But for all the other stuff, I just let my body handle it.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. I am not a flu shot guy. I don't really get sick a lot. I do keep my hands clean. I take care of myself in that regard. And social distancing has been my fucking norm forever. So, but you mentioned wiping down the stuff at the gym. That's you'd be surprised how often people don't do shit like that, and it's infuriating to me.
Yeah, well, the kind of gyms I go to, everyone does that shit because it's like, staph infection center, man, like sweat and like contact, like, dudes like, contact, like skin to skin contact is like what it's all about there. You know what I mean? Like you're like fucking grappling and you're throwing punches and sparring with people and holding pads and all this kind of stuff. And there's a lot of skin on equipment contact.
Right.
And, after every session, they clean the mats and, it's like, because the last thing you need is to have one guy get a staph infection and everyone's got it. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, totally.
I guess at a regular gym, I see people just being fucking animals about sweating all over shit.
It's disgusting and it's inconsiderate, and it gives me stuff like that. Really gives me anxiety when it seems just someone like sweating real hard and then they just walk away and they leave without showering. Stuff like that gives me anxiety. Stuff like the other day, I got a sandwich, and the guy's. He's like, he hands it to me with his hand that doesn't have a glove on. He's got a glove on one hand, but he fucking hands me the sandwich with his bare hand.
He was probably like scratching his asshole with that hand that he handed you the sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, you fucking piece of shit. I just looked at it for a while. I'm like, should I eat this?
What'd you do?
Spoiler alert, I ate it. And I'm fine.
Dude.
No. I was like, if I fall back into this pattern of like being like, afraid to eat, go out. It got a little bad a while ago where like I was very like worried about getting sick from things I ate. I got over it, and I was like, I can't fall into that dark hole again. And I ate the fucking sandwich, and I'm fine.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear it, man.
Yeah, well, I'll keep you updated. This was Thursday, so I'm not Sunday now, so I think I'm in the clear. But I want to go back to that place and fucking be like, dude, what's your problem?
Like, go back and like murder him.
Yeah, and he like just beat the shit out of him in the parking lot. And he's thinking, what did I do to deserve this?
He doesn't even remember you.
Back to anxiety. There's that scene in the movie I want to point out where Elliot Gould. Gould.
I forgot he was even in, man. Like, Elliot Gould's great, yeah.
Yeah, he's great. Again, like not a huge part, but he's the one who grows the vaccine in a laboratory to, and eventually that's where the cure comes from. That scene with him, he's like at a table, like I think he's having a drink or eating something, he's looking around and looking at all the things people are touching, the bartender, all the things he's and you just kind of see this slow like dread crawl across his face.
Yeah,
it was a very effective scene, and so was I really, again, like the structure of this movie. It starts on day 2, not day 1, and then it ends. Well, it doesn't end at day 135. I think it's the end, but then like the epilogue is day 1, and then it shows you the very origins of how this all happened.
Yeah, with the banana peel and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah,
I thought it was a really creative, effective way to structure the movie. And it was a great ending. And I mean, overall, this is one of Steven Soderbergh's better movies. And even in the midst of all the chaos that's going on in our world right now, I really enjoyed watching it. It was scary at first, and I think by the end it was a little tipsy. But a really, really excellent movie.
Now, I got a big question, a burning question is, if you were 24 years old right now and you watch this movie, would you think that this movie was somehow unfairly singling out a culture for being the reason for the almost erasure of humanity on this planet? Do you think that you'd be triggered? Would you be triggered by that?
It's funny you mentioned that. Yeah. I've never been triggered by anything, so I don't think. Yeah. I think more like logically and fact-based about things. I do remember when this movie came out in 2011, before really we got in this culture of I guess, I don't even know what you want to call it. I hate to say the overtly PC culture that we're living, but this is before all that. And I do remember there being like an article or something claiming this movie to be racist or culturally insensitive.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think I even wrote down a note about like I wonder if this would fly today.
No. Even though almost the same thing is happening.
Even though it reflects reflects reality, and I see a lot of articles about xenophobia popping up, and which I guess is valid, sure, but I mean I don't think that's anyone's concern right now. I think everyone's concern is staying healthy, and their loved ones staying healthy, and again, it's just the way this is being politicized is weird and gross to me.
Yeah,
everyone involved.
I agree with that. Yeah,
but yeah, this movie comes out today. Maybe the virus it originates in like fucking Florida or something. I don't know.
They would change it to have that happen, where there'd be a wet market in South Florida, and it would be completely the fault of like America. You know what I mean? Like in the States.
Right. Yeah. But general thoughts, I think this is a great movie, really well cast, well acted, moves at a great pace, is wonderfully directed. This movie was kind of forgotten until this coronavirus thing, and now people are remembering it, and good for the movie. I think it's great. It should be seen. I hope Steven Soderbergh just keeps pumping them out.
In a scale of 1 to 5, what do you give this movie?
I would give it 4.5.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you with 4.5. I would also give it a 4.5. It's like for what it is, I think it's like almost a perfect film.
Totally agree. And like, it's great when you see like a great filmmaker just nailing it like that. I mean, like we said earlier, he really experiments. You never know what you're going to get. I mean, he made like an action movie with a UFC fighter.
I'm not sure what film that is.
Did you ever see? Oh God, I can't remember what the hell it's called. But she got into acting after that. She's in like the Fast and the Furious movies.
You're talking about Ronda Rousey, and it's like, isn't like Mark Wahlberg in that as well?
No, this was the Michael Fassbender.
Oh, okay.
And what's his name? Ewan McGregor's in it. I'm surprised you haven't seen this.
I'll have to look it up. So next up on the docket is 12 Monkeys. And as you were mentioning before, this has some similarities to Contagion. However, it takes a markedly different approach to the narrative.
Right. I mean, basically same thing, more extreme. In 12 Monkeys, 5 billion people die.
Well, most of humanity dies, it seems like.
Right. They say 1% survive, and those survivors go underground. So it is an apocalyptic movie, more so than Contagion, dealing with a virus. But, I mean, that's where the similarities end. This is, a very much a science fiction film.
Yeah. Involving time travel and, memories.
Which is totally possible.
Time travel is possible. Yeah. Hey, maybe it is. I don't know.
Yeah. That'd be fucking awesome. But, yeah, this came out in 1995. Terry Gilliam. This was sort of like the beginning of me becoming like a film fanatic. My first 3 directors that I absolutely loved were David Cronenberg, Roman Polanski, and Terry Gilliam.
Yeah.
And I think because that's when I started to notice, like, notice links between films these guys have made. I started to see, like, a style. Like, that looks like a Terry Gilliam shot. And this movie is, like, 100% a Terry Gilliam movie. Like, and one of his last good ones, sadly.
Yeah, I mean, I like Terry Gilliam, but I'm not a big a fan as you are. I know that just from knowing you for all these years, I know that you're a fan of his, and there are definitely a lot of the sort of mechanics of his filmmaking is very much on display in this movie. Like, it has this frenetic sort of pace to it. There's a lot of these Dutch angles that he uses where everything's like off kilter, and
right.
The dialogue is very Terry Gilliam-esque too, I found.
Right. Considering he didn't write it too, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, his directing style I mean, even though he didn't write it. Actually, this film. Let's run through the particulars real quick because there's something interesting about the writing.
Right.
Came out in 1995. Obviously, directed by Terry Gilliam. Screenplay by David Peoples and Janet Peoples, his wife. Now, David Peoples, he wrote the screenplay for Blade Runner and also The Unforgiven. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I did not. I definitely didn't know about The Unforgiven. I know they had one. I don't remember one screen credits of anyone. I was like, oh, wow, I love that.
Yeah, that's
but
pretty
I didn't
sick.
know Unforgiven's another great movie.
Yes.
And Blade Runner, obviously, is one of the best films ever made.
Exactly. I mean, it's a personal favorite of both of ours, I think.
Yeah.
And the film was inspired by a French short called La Jetée, written by a guy named Chris Marker, which is odd.
Written
by
and directed.
And directed by Chris Marker. That's weird because that's not a French name. Yet the film it's a French film. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, his name should be like Pierre, a French guy.
Yeah.
Another like reason this movie is still very personal. The 12 Monkeys, I knew was inspired by La Jetée. Went back and saw La Jetée, which is a 20-minute black and white film that's all photographs.
Yeah, it was very cool.
And those images would make it would be kind of ingrained with the first few ISIS releases.
I noticed that.
There's and I have a tattoo of it on my left arm.
I didn't know that.
From the movie. Yeah, I got it I don't even remember, 2008 something. It's been on there for a while.
I remember early ISIS stuff when Chris was in the band, like way back. You guys pulled a lot from films. There was a lot of like samples and things like that show up in some of the really early material you guys did.
Yeah, well, that's one thing Turner, Chris, and I really bonded on. Like we loved 12 Monkeys and David Lynch. Aaron and Chris were big Lynch fans, and so a lot of the early samples on Mosquito Control are from Lynch films, I believe. When I moved to Boston, I'd never seen Twin Peaks. And so I was friends with Chris back in Connecticut, and I met up with him when I moved to Boston. He was there a year before me, and he showed me Twin Peaks. Like, I would just go to his dorm, and we'd hang out and watch Twin Peaks for, like, however long it took us to watch. I think it was a couple of weeks, like, on this shitty VHS. So, yeah, film was one of the things we bonded over, and this movie, especially me and Chris, really took quite a shine to 12 Monkeys. Again, Terry Gilliam's vision is on full display here. Everything is very fantastic and kind of trashy looking, like the underground world of the future where Bruce Willis lives just feels very junky and thrown slapdash and thrown together. Like the suit he wears to go up on the surface looks very makeshift, as does the time machine.
Yeah.
It seems to be some sort of condom motif going on in both of those scenarios, where Bruce Willis is just putting layers of latex over him, and the time machine kind of just looks like like It looks a little sexual. And then he gets to the 1990 and 96, and the world still looks trashy and bleak. There's garbage everywhere, homeless everywhere, and it's like an interesting parallel, like where we are or where they were in 1996 and where it ends up. And it's really, I like how he handled that. It was an interesting, visually interesting movie. I think every moment of this film is like packed with something to look at.
Yeah, there's definitely his vision of the future, which is almost like, would you say that Terry Gilliam is the godfather of steampunk, in some ways?
Like this is like the 12 Monkeys is like the steampunk Bible.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, everything has like gauges on it, and there's like a very mechanical sort of vibe to all the sets and the set pieces. There's like all the outfits, and there's a lot of equipment and gear and stuff like that in the film, in the future, in his version of the future.
That is, one thing I noticed was how, like, at the time, the movie seemed very fresh and new, and, like, you go back with, eyes from 2020 to watch this film that's from 1995, it feels very of its, like dated, like you've seen this a million times since then, but not as good. Like this look, this feel, like you say, like steampunk, like something cool was taken and made into something that is, I think, fucking absurd, but...
Yeah, totally.
Steampunk is like Terry Gilliam meets fucking Tim Burton or some shit.
Really quick question, and I don't know if did Terry Gilliam direct the 9 Inch Nails movie, video?
No, that was actually, I think Closer was directed by David Fincher.
Oh, okay, yeah. That also has like a steampunk gauges, valves. Everything's like has these like kind of anachronistic looks to it with like a lot of equipment and gear and goggles and shit like that,
Right. Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah. There's a lot like, whereas everything in Contagion was practical and it made sense. Like this movie is just like, this just looks cool. Like none of it makes any fucking sense.
No, not at
but
all.
it looks aesthetically, it looks great. And you mentioned the Dutch angles. I noticed like in this film, like, when you get to the mental institution is when he starts to really like start to tilt his camera and do the weird angles. And then one thing I noticed watching it now is like characters in the background in this movie, there's always something going on, someone doing something absurd or funny, or there's a lot of that going on. It's such a chaotic, frenetic like energy to those scenes, or the scenes where like, when they're in Baltimore and like, like they're in like this like kind of homeless area. If you look in the background, there's just so much going on.
Yeah, that's something that I think is like a very typical thing for his movies. There's always like background stuff going on. The cool thing about this film is the way that it there's a lot of time slippage. Like there's a statement in the movie when they talk about how time travel is not an exact science or something like that, and
right
when he ends up in 96 or whatever, I think whatever the first time travel bit was, he was supposed to be in it like 4 years later or something like that, and there's a lot of that.
He ends up in He ends up in 1990 when it's supposed to be 1996, and at one point he ends up in like 1917 in like the First World War.
Yeah,
and I remember watching it being like, this must have been an expensive scene to shoot. It kind of seems like it could be thrown away, but it comes back later in the movie when they take the bullet out of his leg.
Yeah,
it becomes a key plot point. And I was like, oh, that's why they can't cut it out. It's like little things like that. It's really well thought out. And I looked up the budget for this movie, and it was $29 million. And this looks like if you made it today, it would cost $60 million.
Yeah,
to pull something like that off. There's no CGI or very little. It's all like what you're looking at is like built. There's sets. That chair that Bruce Willis sits in, and he speaks to that kind of ball of like TVs. That's all real. What you're looking at is real.
That's what I love about movies from this era. I mean, CGI technology wasn't nearly where it is today. So everything was like
Right.
practical actually sets, things like that. Real makeup.
Right. When you see like the bear roaming around Philadelphia and all that, it's real.
Yeah.
The only CGI thing I noticed was the giraffes running across the bridge towards the end of the film looked a little CGI. But other than that, like, it's pretty I would say all practical effects.
Yeah.
And they look great. As dated as the movie, or as old as the movie is, it still looks good. And it has that, like shot on film practical effects look that just doesn't exist anymore. Everything in movies like feels very over color corrected or too much reliance on CGI. I'm not against any of that stuff, but like when it's more seamless is when I enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that if you're going to create a character that's completely CGI, that's generally not a good idea. That never works out so well. But if it's a supplement,
and it's
if it's a supplement to a practical effect, I think it's when it looks best.
Yeah, like something like Mad Max Fury Road, where like all the stunts and everything is real, but it's like the background, the desert is where they're like touching things up, and you're not noticing it because you're focusing on the stunts and the action.
Yeah, that was another great movie, by the way. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I was surprised how much I like it. I mean, those movies are a lot of fun.
Yeah, totally.
And yeah, but another thing, Brad Pitt in this movie, not quite a big star yet. He was just sort of on his way. And I think he knocks it out of the park in this. I know Terry Gilliam didn't want him. He didn't want him for the part. I think the studio was kind of pushing to cast him. I know Brad Pitt worked really hard, worked with doctors to get that sort of weird rhythm he has. And he was nominated for an Oscar for this. It's kind of a showy performance and flashy, but he's so funny.
I think it's funny.
Like every scene.
I think it's funny he was nominated. Actually, he won a Golden Globe for this too.
He won the Golden Globe. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but I still think it has nothing to do with his acting abilities. I think it's because he's got like ripped abs and like fucking good skin, and his fucking cheekbones cut the light just the right way. I think it's gotten. I've just recently started liking Brad Pitt. Like I can't stand a single fucking movie he's been in except for maybe 3.
I'm gonna go ahead and guess this one, 7 and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I like him in. All right, I like him in this. I like him in 7, kind of. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is his opus. I think he's amazing in that movie.
I totally agree.
And I liked him in Fight Club because he was playing a figment of someone's imagination. Like he wasn't playing a real person. So it's okay that he was 2-dimensional in that movie.
Spoiler alert for Fight Club.
All right, well, yeah, the movie came out like 15 years ago, man. If you didn't see it by now, it's your problem, man. I kind of feel Brad Pitt is more of a movie star to me than an actor for a while. Mm-hmm.
He's been great in some things and laughably bad in others. There's some movie where he plays like an Irish guy.
Oh, are you talking about Snatch?
No, he's actually funny in that.
Yeah,
but
he's pretty
funny in that.
This is a more
serious movie. This was like Harrison Ford, and Harrison Ford takes him in, but he's really like a member of the IRA or something.
Oh,
and his Irish accent is so fucking bad in that. Like it's really laughable. Or something like Meet Joe Black, where he's just there in the movie, like not really giving a performance. Terrible movie. He's really bad in it. But
a while back,
every once in a while he shines.
Yeah, I mean, more recently though, I think he's been really good. Like I want to see Ad Astra, that film. Oh, I definitely want to see that.
Oh, that's great.
It's good. You seen it?
That's great. Yeah, I think it was my number 5 favorite movie of 2019. Okay. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to see that, and I like the idea, the concept behind it. It's really cool.
It's good. There's like a couple great set pieces in that, but anyway.
Yeah, but a while back, I think California came on Netflix or one of the streaming services.
Oh yeah.
And I remember back in the day watching it, trying to watch it, and I was like, man, this sucks. Like, it was one of those things where I was living in this house, and there was like a bunch of people that lived there, and it was a movie that someone rented, and we were all watching it, and I was kind of like halfway paying attention to it, and I was just like, yes, this is fucking garbage. And I hadn't seen it since then. So this is like 20-something years later, and I'm like, all right, yeah, maybe this would be entertaining to watch this film again, maybe for nostalgia purposes. And I could not even make it through the fucking movie, dude. It was so bad.
It's terrible.
Unwatchable.
It's such a such a cast of the time. Brad Pitt, Julia Lewis, David Duchovny. It is laughably bad. I also haven't seen it in a long time. That seems like a movie when that came out that I would eat up at that time. Yeah. And even then I was like, no, this is not good. Like,
he ruins
there's a lot of
it.
like films like that and like U-Turn. Like I remember really loving that movie when it came out, and I saw it recently and being like, oh, this is kind of stupid. California seems like it'd be one of those movies. Like I immediately thought it was dumb.
Yeah, it's terrible. And I couldn't even finish watching it. I was like, man, this is a bummer.
Yeah.
It's like I couldn't even make it through that film. And
Brad Pitt's pretty silly in that.
I mean, I feel like he kind of ruined the entire movie.
Yeah. Like, I think you put anyone in that movie, it's still going to be bad, but he didn't help.
Yeah, I think that it would have been workable if someone else played his role. But the movie in general was terrible. It was a fucking awful piece of shit, I thought.
I can't remember who directed that, but it's like one of those generic dudes who just kind of turned out generic shit. I don't think he ever did anything cool.
Yeah.
But, Gilliam didn't really want him, but I think he's great in this. He's really, really funny. He steals every scene that he's in. And then you have Bruce Willis, who was a huge star at the time, who wasn't really kind of known for having any sort of dramatic chops. And he's surprisingly really good in this.
I really liked him in this, actually, and I'm not a fan of his either,
Right, he's another guy, Die Hard's great, of course. He knocked that out of the park. But, he doesn't have a lot of range as an actor. It's not like he shows up in something you expect him to be great. He'll show up in something good, and he'll be fine in it, but I don't think he ever elevates anything to more than what it is.
Yeah,
and in this, he's really great. You need to you don't have a more perfect shaped head than Bruce Willis. So I think that's why he was cast. Because originally I was reading Terry Gilliam wanted Nick Nolte for this part.
Nah, I don't think so. Yeah.
Can you fucking imagine? Oh God damn it! He's just running around screaming all the time.
I like Nick Nolte in certain roles though, but this wouldn't have been right for him. I don't think.
No, not at all. It seems like a very, very odd choice. But Bruce Willis has to do a lot of dramatic acting in this, and I think he pretty much pulls it off.
There's one scene where he's in the car and they're listening to music, and that was a scene where you really got a pretty deep appreciation for his ability to show emotion. I thought that was a great scene, man.
Yeah, I agree. Car scenes are usually pretty boring too. Like when it's people in cars talking, and it's tough to make them interesting, and he does. There's also the element throughout the movie up until pretty much the end. You do wonder, is this really happening? Yeah. Is this all in this guy's head?
Yep.
And what's interesting, I watched with my girlfriend. She remembered the ending being a lot more ambiguous. She hadn't seen it in 15 years or something like that. And she's like, "Oh, it's not ambiguous at all. It's all real."
Yeah, definitely. And that's there's a term for that, Cassandra something or other, Cassandra syndrome, I think is what it's called.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a term where it's essentially what we just described, where you're not sure if it's real or not, or if this person is convinced that it's real. Actually, I might look up the definition of it. I think that's the term. I'm not sure. But yeah.
Huh, okay. Yeah. that, I mean, because from the get-go, you think Bruce Willis could very well be insane. Like the world he's created in his head seems too bizarre to be real. And the way he acts in like the 1990 and 1996 seems very crazy. So like it could be all in his head, and then slowly kind of reveals that it's not. And 12 Monkeys is really just a red herring. They really like are just had nothing to do with the end of the world, really. It was really just this guy's assistant.
Here we go. Cassandra's metaphor. Individuals who experience physical and emotional suffering as a result of distressing personal perceptions and who are disbelieved when they attempt to share the cause of their suffering with others. So yeah, that's like that. Yeah, it's Cassandra metaphor because of Cassandra, being she's part of Greek mythology. Yeah. Anyway, I don't get into that tangent, but yeah, Cassandra metaphor has to do with that. And that's kind of like what a lot of these films they pull that mechanism where there's a guy who is perceiving the world to be different than what's actually happening as a result of some kind of trauma or damage, and no one believes him. Okay.
Right.
So there's that possibility in this film where you think that Bruce Willis, his character, is like, he's insane, or he, whatever, he's in a coma or some shit, and he's hallucinating this whole world. But I agree that at the end, I felt like it was for a definite real thing that was going on. Like he was an actual time traveler, and there was like some dystopian future that he was, coming back to try to prevent.
Right. And they mentioned throughout the movie, like, I can't change what happened. I'm only here to look for the or to find a cure. And then you have the last shot, or not the last shot of the movie, it was second to last, where you see one of the scientists from the future sitting next to the guy on the plane, and you think, okay, they eventually manufacture a cure and try to, somewhat of a happy ending, I guess. I like the journey of the doctor, where like you're supposed to like I see the movie maybe through her eyes, where like she thinks Bruce Willis is crazy, none of this is real, and then slowly things start to add up, and her paranoia grows. Like, oh my, like when they pull the bullet out, and it's from 1917 or whatever year, and she finds that picture from her own book, and in the background is Bruce Willis, and then she becomes roped into his world, where it was the opposite before, and she wants him to be crazy. She doesn't want all these people to die, but she's slowly realizing that he's not. Yeah.
Well, I guess like the fact that they pull that World War I bullet out of his leg validates, his story.
Right, and like it becomes like this little thing became like a huge plot point, and I think this is good writing. The way she just slowly comes around to his point of view, and I love the bookend of the movie where it begins with him witnessing his own death but not realizing it, and then in the end, him witnessing his own death, and the doctor character, Madeline Stowe's character, looks and realizes it. It's really a nice moment. Another cool, like we were talking when we were watching, the airport in that movie doesn't look anything like an airport. Like, no, not at all. It just looks like it looks like a set in a hangar somewhere. But again, I love it. I love that Terry Gilliam says, no, we're not shooting in like a real airport. No, we're gonna make this, this fucking really weird, kind of creepy airport. And good casting too. That kid does look like a young Bruce Willis. I gotta say that was a very, very good eye on Mr. Terry Gilliam there.
Yeah, totally, man.
And
that's the other thing I really enjoyed about this film too, is the fact of the way they play with memory, and that's something that even it put me in this like mental state too, when you start actually trying to remember how shit happens and how flawed the human memory is. you know, and they touch on that a lot in this film.
They do, and it's done subtly. I like when his reoccurring dream, he sees Brad Pitt in it at one point because he's now interactive with this guy, and it's affecting his memory. And then, you know, Madeline Stowe tells him, it's never been me in the dream. It only is now because of what's happening. That's really, really nice touch. And that's one thing, they mentioned several times, like, Bruce Willis's character is smart. He has a good memory. He's a smart. He's kind of like, you know, a bit like, you know, thuggish. You see him as kind of thuggish and insane, but you realize in the real world, the future, he's a smart guy. He's violent. That's why he's in prison, but he's really smart. And I think it's also interesting to limit what you see in the future setting of the movie. You only see the prison and like a hospital and like a questioning room. You don't see like what the rest of society is like. But it's mentioned, like, you get a pardon, women are going to want to know you.
Yeah.
You're like, how normal is this society that they live in the future?
Yeah, I mean, you only us outside of the prison, you only really see like that when he goes to the surface. You know what I mean? You don't really see the actual machinations of their society. You know?
Right, and I mean, that could have been a totally different movie. I thought it was smart to kind of keep it confined like that. Mm-hmm. Sort of like when you saw like the first Matrix. Yeah. You really think like it's just this band of survivors on a ship, and then you get to the second movie, and it's this whole, you know, society who throw raves and shit, and it sucks. I think limiting it to that was a smart idea, and. Yeah, I love when the first time he goes up to the surface. And again, like, the world has ended, but it's really business as usual on planet Earth for everything else. You know, there's still birds flying, there's still animals roaming around, there's bugs. Everything still exists except us.
Which is how it would end up, actually. You know, like, that's how, I mean, if you really look at humanity's existence on this planet, like there's been like we're only been existing on planet Earth for such a small fraction of the life of the planet. You know, it's just this blip, really, a moment,
right,
in the entire lifespan of this Earth. You know, it's only just a brief moment that we've been here.
Right, and you know, our time on it as individuals, you know, even briefer, and it's hard to wrap your brain around that.
Yeah, like the concept of infinity and like cosmic distances and things like that is like unfathomable, really. Yeah, and it shows how little we really know about anything. Yeah, it's all just like, well, maybe this happened, and that's pretty much it. So how do you score this film on a scale of 1 to 5?
This is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's not perfect. There's some little flaws here and there. If it came out today, I don't know that I would love it as much, but I give it a 5. Yeah. This is, again, one of my favorite films, very impactful in my life.
I'll give it a 4.5 because I like the concepts. I like the acting. It's a rare occasion where two of the actors that I'm not really big fans of actually do a job that I appreciate, where I actually like them. You know, especially in the 90s, I thought Brad Pitt was like useless, really, for the most part.
It's a great way to describe someone.
Yeah, you know, I never took him seriously. You know, I only recently started taking him seriously, like in the last maybe 10 years or so.
You've come around to Brad Pitt.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's not much to him, really. You know, it's until now. I mean, you know, I think he's good now. Now I like him, but for like a long period of time, there wasn't much to him.
Sure. It's funny he's become the more interesting actor, whereas Bruce Willis has sort of devolved into doing these like straight to like red box movies with like fucking like Gerard Butler and like fucking dumpster casting people like that. You know
I didn't even know Bruce Willis still acted, to be honest. I didn't even think he was like still doing movies.
Yeah, he'll pop up in something interesting every now and again. I don't know if you saw Looper.
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, that was came out a while ago though, but that was pretty good.
Yeah, I loved that movie. I think that was my favorite movie that came out in whatever year it came out, 2015. So yeah, every once in a while he'll do something good, but for the most part, it's just bullshit. You know, he'll pop up in like a Wes Anderson movie every now and again. And you're like, oh yeah, Bruce Willis. But Brad Pitt seems to have taken the more interesting turn and also doing more behind the scenes stuff. You know, like he won an Oscar before Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. His company produced 12 Years a Slave, which won Best Picture and Best Director, I believe, the year that came out. 2012 or something like that. So I think he's had the more interesting Hollywood career, and he's 55 now, and he's just won an Oscar. He seems to be going. I think he'll continue to do cool shit. I loved him in Inglourious Basterds too. Again, not like a movie star type role, more like character-driven movie, and I thought he was really great in that.
Yeah, that was one of Tarantino's films I didn't really enjoy. I didn't enjoy the movie, and I didn't really.
Really?
Yeah, I wasn't into it really.
Oh man! Until The Hateful Eight came along, that was my favorite Tarantino movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Love it.
Yeah. I was kind of lukewarm with that one.
What did you think of Hateful Eight?
I didn't like it really.
Wow.
Yeah.
It took me a while to come around to Tarantino in general, because I liked Pulp Fiction, but then like he started to creep out his personality a little bit more, and you're like, this guy's a fucking jerk off.
Yeah.
I was kind of turned off to him for a long time, but it took me a while, but I came around.
I'm partial to Pulp Fiction. Reservoir Dogs, I think, is a masterpiece. I love that movie.
Yeah, I just rewatched that the last 6 months or so. I agree. What a fucking perfect movie.
Yeah, those two films, and I think a lot of it has to do with like when they came out too. I think that I was like at the right age to really appreciate those movies, and I was like in my like mid-20s or early 20s or something like that when those movies came out, and I was like, just it's that kind of film that appealed to me at that moment, and then those two, and I actually liked Kill Bill. I thought the Kill Bill films were pretty cool.
They're lower on the list for me.
Yeah, and I really liked his entry into the Grindhouse. That thing he did with what the hell was the film he did? It took place in Texas.
Grindhouse. His was Death Proof.
Death Proof. Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Wow.
Yeah,
we were like on the polar opposite sides of things. I hated that.
Yeah.
And loves his like newer stuff. But Pulp Fiction came along and changed everything. That was like the movie. Every few years, a movie comes out that everything's trying to be, and that was that movie for like everyone wanted to do like witty gangster pictures, and then Seven came out, and then everyone had to have their dark serial killer movie with crazy credits, and then The Matrix comes out and everyone's chasing that.
Yeah.
But Pulp Fiction, that was the like that movie changed films for a while. This is a landmark movie, and for good reason. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it gave a career back to John Travolta and Sam Jackson, really.
Yeah, which John Travolta threw away a few years later. He's another one like Bruce Willis. Like I think John Travolta has back-to-back black eyes with Gotti and The Fanatic. I don't know if you've seen either one.
No, I didn't see either.
Gotti is one of the worst pieces of shit I've ever seen. You wonder how it ever got made. And then The Fanatic is directed by Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit fame.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. So I would actually recommend you watch that because it is so terrible that it becomes fun to like watch and like break down like why is this happening? How it's a fascinating watch, but it's terrible on every level. Like it should be a career ender for everyone involved.
You know what Travolta was awesome in though was that American Crime Story where about the O.J. Simpson trial.
Yeah.
He was great.
Yeah, that was the O.J. Simpson thing, right? Yeah. I thought you were going to say, Look Who's Talking.
But he was great in that too, man.
Yeah, he is. That OJ. I thought that was going to be like a fiasco. Like, this looks stupid, and it was one of the most entertaining things I've ever watched.
Yeah, it was. I thought he was great in that. That was like he played Robert Shapiro. That was awesome. And
yeah,
yeah,
that was really, really fucking really good. And I watched the documentary about OJ right after that, like a 9-hour documentary.
I should check that out too. Has there been anything else recently that you watched that's been cool or not cool or to avoid? Maybe?
You know what? I just rewatched The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and I hated it.
I could see that.
And I remember liking it at the time. I was like, I love David Fincher, but watching it now, I'm like, this seems like something like Robert Zemeckis or Steven Spielberg should have done. Like the feel is just so wrong for Fincher. It was just a total misfire from a director that I usually love. But what else did I read? I write down everything I watch. I've been cooped up a lot, so I've watched a lot of movies. Recently rewatched Dredd, the Judge Dredd movie from a couple years back.
One. That's a good one.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Didn't think much about it after I saw it the first time, but on a rewatch, it's like, this is kind of like The Raid, but you put Judge Dredd in instead. And it was a lot more fun than I remember. And really, really enjoyed it. I finished The Outsider. I assume you did too.
Yeah, it's great. I enjoyed it. Definitely variances from the book, but my only criticism, I mean, there's certain things that are different. You know, like I don't have to go into all the differences, but like the one problem that I had was that I knew the story already when I was watching it. You know, and
right.
But I mean, I still watched every episode, and I enjoyed it. But there was no sense of drama because I kind of knew how everything played out, and you know what I mean. And
right. Oh no, totally.
It was still enjoyable though. I mean, it was on the same quality level as True Detective first season, in my opinion. You know?
I thought the first 2 episodes, I would totally agree with you, and it kind of dipped for me. After that, I felt it seemed unnecessarily drawn out to 10 episodes. I think they could have done it in 8. It has a few Stephen King isms that drove me crazy, like the thing having a really silly name, like El Cuco.
Well, that's from South American folklore, El Cuco.
Right, right. It seems silly in this for some reason.
Yeah. Okay.
The ending just kind of ended. I didn't hate it. I thought it was kind of cool. I thought they were going a much different way with the ending.
Yeah.
And when they didn't go that way, because I thought the shapeshifter had become the detective. Mm-hmm. And that's why they were trying to get rid of spoilers. They were trying to get rid of traces of the shapeshifter and say, never mention the shapeshifter. I'm like, fuck, he's the shapeshifter. But he wasn't. That
would have been an interesting ending, I think. That would have been a good ending.
Or at least make it like, I thought it was like going to be ambiguous, like Inception, you know, is this a dream, is it not? Mm-hmm. I thought that was is this guy, you know, or Blade Runner would be better. Is he or isn't he a replicant?
Yeah.
But yeah, I would give it a 3 out of 5. It was entertaining. I really wanted to eat that fried chicken in that scene where they're eating.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, you ain't kidding, man. Definitely.
Oh man, HBO has a way of like making me hungry. Like I remember going through The Sopranos, and like I just wanted to eat like fucking Italian food for like 3 months straight.
Yeah.
What about you, Mike? You seen anything cool? Or bad?
Both, actually. But real quick about The Outsider, though, I think that's also one of the big criticisms people have in general with Stephen King is his endings. Mm. You know, a lot of people don't like the way he ends any of his stories. You know.
Yeah, that's funny because that gets brought up in It Chapter 2.
Yep.
The movie, which I don't know if you saw, but I fucking hated.
Yeah, I wasn't that into it, really. The first one I thought was
really
cool.
bad.
First one I enjoyed.
I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it. And the second one, I just flat out hated. It was just abysmal. I don't know how you have a 3-hour movie where like nothing really happens.
Yeah. Recently,
stronger ending for Stephen King. Yeah. I agree.
Recently, I saw an Epix series. It's a BBC series, War of the Worlds, and it's still going on right now. Actually, today's Sunday, so tonight the next episode's coming up. And
War of the Worlds.
Yeah, it's on Epix, and I saw advertisements for it in the subway, and I was like, how many times are they going to redo War of the Worlds? There was that.
I was just thinking that myself.
There was the film that they made a few years ago, or actually quite a few years ago, with what's Tom Cruise? Tom Cruise, which wasn't so great. And then I heard a podcast where they talked about the film itself and how it actually is they take a lot of license with the story. So I'm like, check this out. So I went to my Amazon account and I typed it in. And it turns up, watch on Prime. Okay, so oh shit. So wow, I don't remember. I'm like, I don't remember subscribing to Epix, but fuck it, check this out. So I watched the first 3 episodes, totally great. And then I was gonna go to watch episode 4, and it was like, subscribe to Epix and for a free 7-day trial. And I was like, what the fuck, man? I got totally worked. I'm like, I thought that somehow I had gotten, like, it was part of some other subscription I had or whatever, you know what I mean? I was like, you motherfuckers, man, you got me. And but I subscribed because I want to see the rest of the series. And it's really good, man. And I mean, I'm probably not going to hang on to the Epix subscription until when this is over with, but it's pretty awesome. It's very very heavy, like emotionally heavy. Has this hopeless vibe to it, has a very dark atmosphere to it, and I'm totally in on it. It's great. Oh
wow, I'll have to check it. I like you. I was like, War of the Worlds. You've fucking seen it. What new can you add to it? But that sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's good.
One last thing. I recommend to you, actually, a Japanese film called Creepy.
Oh, okay. Creepy.
Directed by Kiyoshi Kurosawa.
Okay.
I'm sure we'll do something, or I'll talk about something of his in the future. He directed one of my favorite movies of all time called Cure. And this is, I don't want to give too much away, but it's sort of a thriller. And it's called Creepy. It's sort of horror related. It's about the next door neighbor might not be what he appears to be, basically kind of movie.
Wow.
And it's really, really good. It came out a couple of years ago. Kind of came and went. I don't think American audiences really know Kiyoshi Kurosawa. If they know him from anything, it's from a movie he directed called Pulse that was remade here. Also called Pulse, but was terrible.
Wow, I just looked it up on Amazon, and it's streaming on Amazon. It's part of my subscription to Prime. So yeah, I can watch it.
Oh
for free.
Shit!
Yeah,
I highly recommend that. I think you're gonna like that one.
Nice,
it's right up your alley.
Something that we talked about watching that we both watched. It was Rabid, the remake.
You know what? I didn't get to it.
All right, okay.
I was like, you were just. I still have it saved, so. I'm going to watch it. We got to talk about, I haven't seen the original in a long time, so it's going to be fun to watch those back to back.
I watched it. It's funny, man. Like, there's one podcast I listened to called the Who Goes There podcast. They gave it a horrible review. And then another podcast that I listened to gave it a good review. And I was like,
oh, interesting.
I'm like, they went into the plot a little bit, and I was like, this sounds pretty cool. So let me take a chance. Because I love the original. And I was like, at first, I'm like, who the fuck remakes David Cronenberg, man? Come on. You can't remake those guy's films. You know what I mean? He's like, it's a classic. So, and it was a total fucking piece of shit, man. It was awful. It was like the worst. It was like, I got to a point in the movie where I'm like, man, should I turn this off? I'm like, nah, I got to finish this that, like, at least I got something to talk about and I can say I saw it. And I was kind of like already invested enough. I'd already invested, AKA wasted enough of my time to not see the end. So I should have stuck out. I should have stuck with the Who Goes There podcast review. but because those guys usually are on the same page as me with movies, and
sure,
yeah, they actually shouted me out a couple episodes ago, which is kind of cool, you know.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was
I'll
pretty stoked about that.
I'm gonna watch that tonight and listen to that podcast. If I still have a job tomorrow.
Well, if you don't have a job tomorrow, then you might have more time to listen to the podcast. So.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Critics would seem to agree that the movie, they see 52%, so it's kind of split down the middle about how people feel about Rabid. But I feel like horror movies are getting like really good reviews, and then I go and watch them, and they're terrible.
Yeah, because
that seems to be happening
fans
to me a lot lately.
Non-horror fans seem to be reviewing them, and it's like, you know, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, maybe.
I just saw this movie, like The Girl on the Third Floor or something.
I saw it too.
I hated it, and it got great reviews.
I didn't like it either.
And the most puzzling thing is Neurosis's music is in that, and those guys are like so protective of their stuff, and it ends up in that. That was confusing to me, but yeah.
Actually,
but that got great reviews.
Steve Albini did the score for that.
Did he?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
I must have been sleeping during the opening credits or something.
I saw that, and I was like, holy shit, Steve Albini, you know, was involved, you know. And, I mean, you kind of get one thing from him, really. You know what I mean? So, yeah. He does that one thing he does really well, though, so.
Yeah, I'm not exactly a diehard Albini fan. He's done some stuff I like. He's done some stuff that I think is not so good. And some bands he records sound great, and some not so much.
Yeah,
hit or miss for me.
I'm mixed. I love Big Black. I think Big Black was like, you know, they're like Black Flag. Yeah. They're like a band that's like opened the doors for so much stuff afterwards. Like they created so many passageways into music. I'm like a 50-50 Shellac fan. Some of their stuff I really like. Some of it I can, you know, it's like whatever. I don't hate it, but I don't love it.
I feel like I stopped paying attention after the first 3 albums, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, if it's on, I'm always like, oh yeah, Shellac, I like it.
You know, Rape Man's cool. I thought the Rape Man record was kind of cool. But
it was just a one and done thing, right?
Yeah. You know, it was a real drummer was in it. It was cool. You know, it was like an interesting little thing he did. The funny thing about Girl on the Third Floor, it stars CM Punk, a former WWF wrestler who had a very brief MMA career. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I feel like he might have been the best thing about the movie, like his acting. Like I think
really, that's interesting.
The guy who's not really an actor to step up and do that role, I think he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, he's not great, but he's not terrible. But like, there's something off about and stilted about everything in that movie.
Yeah,
like the rhythm is just so off. It's not really well put together or directed. I was really found its high score on Rotten Tomatoes baffling.
Yeah,
it was not good. But maybe, we did talk about 2 good movies, so
yeah.
So final thoughts, Mike. Are we all going to be alive in 3 months? Or are we all fucking at the end of the world?
I plan on being alive. You know, I don't see any indication unless someone like jumps me in the subway and stabs me or something like that. I don't think. I think I have every intention of being here in 3 months. So. All
right, and hopefully we'll see you out here with napalm death in the near future.
That on the other hand, that might not happen. I mean, I haven't gotten the official word that it's getting canceled, but everything else is getting canceled. Like the Mayhem tour's done, everything, you know, there was supposed to be a show today. Body Count was supposed to play in New York today, and that show got canceled too. You know, and
when you can scare Ice-T away, you know it's serious.
That's right, man. You know that's some real shit if that guy doesn't show up to do the show. You know.
I fucking love Ice-T, man, but Body Count is just, oh man.
I love it, dude. I'm so into it. I love Body Count. I love Ice-T. I like all of his hip hop. I love Body Count. I think that stuff's great.
His first few albums are class. Power, Iceberg, all that shit. OG, Original Gangster.
Yeah.
I fucking love it.
Yeah,
love that shit.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, man. So definitely take care of yourself out there, everyone. And, we'll catch you guys next time around.
All right. See you later, everyone.
State.